This is Prep Period, an all-sports podcast by the Ventura County Star and the people at VCS Press.
Pretty funny.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Prep Period, the Ventura County Star's All Sports, All Preps podcast. My mic is in position, Joe. I'm Dominic Massimino. He's Joe Curley, sports reporters here at the Star. Flying by the seat of our pants this morning. A very busy day for the fellas, but we got an exciting show ahead of us. But first, Joe, tell us how your weekend went, quote unquote weekend.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. Football, last week of football season, regular season, flag football playoffs, November 1st Halloween parties. So all kinds of craziness. But
I'm so sad I missed that one.
But just like we are in position for the podcast, 15 local teams ready for the playoffs this weekend. So getting ready to break it all down. Really excited about this. And we've got some friends with us to help.
Yes, more on that in a little bit. But as we always do, we are going to talk through last week's games. We were talking before the show. It's always a crazy, final week because everything comes to a head. You have, league championships decided outright. You have, teams figuring out whether they're going to, make a run into the playoffs or not. Lots of big stuff happening. But yeah, we had a Thursday slate of games. We had a Friday slate of games. Joe, what should we talk about first?
Well, let's talk about the decisive moment in the top league with a Ventura County team finishing 10-0 and winning, becoming the second straight public school to win the Marmani League for the first time in over a decade, and first in about a decade to win it outright. So kudos to Pacifica. You were there. It was your first time at La Playa. So
it was.
Give us everything that you're going to remember about a beautiful night in Santa Barbara.
The way I know how cool that venue really is probably the most engagement I've ever gotten on a tweet on my VCS Dominic Twitter account was posting a picture from La Playa and the amount saying basically, wow, Joe was not exaggerating how beautiful of a place to watch football this is, and all the people agreed with that sentiment. Super cool venue, super cool game. I got treated to a really special one. So Pacifica, this was a true comeback, both in the sense of kind of the score on the scoreboard and just like the energy of that game. Just completely flipped the switch late. So Pacifica goes down as much as 21-6 early. They're down 14-0, then 21-6. They cut it to 27-19 by the half, so they started building a little bit of momentum. But yeah, Bishop Diego really caught him off guard with the passing game. Coach Moon told me coming in that they were really prepared for this big physical run-heavy team, and they threw something kind of different at him.
Smart.
Yeah.
Tom Crawford's no fool.
Yep. The quarterback Tua Rojas connected with John Michael Flint, receiver, for 3 touchdowns early on, just getting over the top of the defense, and seemed like it shocked Pacifica. But they come back and are able to slow them down in the second half and get their own offense rolling, despite the loss of, a stud offensive player in Elijah Royster, who went down with what looked like a knee injury and didn't return in the game. They get just a 19-0 explosion early in the fourth quarter. They pull even 27-27, and then that 19-0 run gets them up 43-27, and the final score ends up being 46-27. Final score ends up being 46-33. So just a huge kind of a different Pacifica team, a Pacifica team that's more like the team that you and I covered in that postseason run last year. Explosive offensively, they get takeaways on back-to-back defensive possessions. Isaiah Tilley gets a big man interception on a batted pass that kind of kickstarts that run. But yeah, I mean, heck of a way to win the Marmani League title and to clinch that 10-0 season coming from behind. A real test for them in their final game of the regular season.
I mean, we've seen Pacifica rise from a new school to being an Oxnard shadow to winning a state championship, winning a lower level CIF championship, winning Division 4 last year, getting up into the Marmani League and kind of surviving a little bit last year. And now, this may be, so far the crowning achievement. I'm not sure where Coach Moon would put all those achievements. Certainly state championship is an amazing feather to have in a cap. But when the way that the leagues are set up now, where Marmani League isn't just, elite, it's literally the top league based on, they put the top teams all in one league. And when you win that league undefeated, you finish 10-0, that's as big of an achievement as you can have. So
it's a statement. Yeah. It's a statement about where that program has kind of grown. It's their second, 10-0 regular season in 3 seasons now, because it's 2023 if I have the math right. They've arrived. They are not just, I think the words I put in the Gamer, they're not just a burgeoning West County power now. They are are arguably our top team, depending on who you ask. Yeah, they're number one.
They earned it.
So very cool. I should mention also, got to give flowers to Isaiah Phelps, who when Royster goes down in that game, he does what they asked him to do oftentimes when they need something to change in that backfield, and he goes back there. He finishes with 15 carries for I think 129 yards. Yeah, 129 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. He keeps them in it early. When we were talking about it, it's like he was playing great when they were not playing great as a team. He was playing great when they turned things around. He was kind of the consistent factor throughout that game. And Coach Moon said afterwards, like, yeah, he's got all those offers for a reason, man. He is a dude. So props to him. And then you want to tell us about where you were Thursday night and talk through that? That's kind of one of our biggest stories of the season, as well as what Westlake has managed to do.
I mean, it wasn't much of a game. It was a really impressive first half performance. Westlake scored on their first 5 possessions to take control. They were up 35-0 at the half and essentially one going away. But it's the achievement of Coach Clausen and his staff and his kids to become what we think is the second team in state history. We know the first team in Ventura County history to go from 0-10 to 10-0 in consecutive seasons, which is just incredible. Certainly they've had some things fall their way in that during that drive. It's going to be really interesting, I think, what they do in the postseason. But every time I think things are going to get tougher for them, Coach Clausen and that group find a solution, and they've been very good. The freshman quarterback has not killed them in ways that you would expect a freshman quarterback to maybe have a bad night and get you a loss, throw you a loss one where the lines have improved throughout the year. I thought that was a huge weakness coming into the year, that someone was going to be big and strong enough to push them around and grab a win. Agura was not big enough. TO wasn't big enough. Even Newbury Park was not big enough to just run the ball down their throat and grab the game. Certainly. So it's a unbelievable achievement. You got to feel really optimistic about where that program is going. And it's a seismic shift in the Conejo Valley, because you're coming off a year where Newbury Park had one of the great seasons in public school history locally. They've got arguably the best player in county history coming back. And because of a series of events, they had been feeding off Westlake Town. There's a whole bunch of Westlake kids on that Newbury team the last couple of years that bolstered that roster. Part of the reason why Newbury was so good the last couple of years. And now, we'll see what these teams look like going forward. I think it's a really interesting thing with all 3 of the Conejo Valley teams being really good at the same time.
Awesome. Sorry, I
So
was
it's
just
working?
checking something. Yeah, everything's working. Everything's working well. Sorry,
Nice.
I'm so frazzled from stuff this morning. This whole time you're talking, I'm like, all right, is my mic on? Is the feed
Yeah.
working?
Are you muted?
Everything's good.
Do your checklist.
So, dude, yeah, we're checking boxes, and so it's almost hard to remember. It was such a crazy week with so many games, but another huge game was Thursday night. For me, was the 115th installment of the Route 126 rivalry. Fillmore gets the big win, 45-8, biggest win since the 57-7 victory in 2021. Santa Paula still leads the series 63-45-7, or 63-45 with seven ties. Is that true? That's crazy.
Football used to have ties, bro.
That's wild. Before my time. But yeah, I mean, so the story of this game was that, Fillmore followed the same, same recipe that they have, used to great success in all of their 9 wins over the course of this season. They ran the ball great. They played awesome defense. The thing that was kind of new and interesting was how much that defensive line and occasionally some of those linebackers were able to get to the quarterback, which was a huge part of this game. Rene Vega makes his return, comes back from that wrist injury that he suffered against Agora. And Santa Paula was very happy to have him back. A talented kid who has really showed up this year. But yeah, he was he just did not have time to make, to effectively impact that game at the quarterback position, passing the ball because of what that defensive line was able to do. Marcus Lechuga, he had a couple of sacks. Number 88, he had a couple of sacks. They end up having 6 sacks on the night on Vega, which is tough coming back from an injury to take that kind of beating. But yeah, I mean, it was just a dominant outing from Fillmore. I would love to bring in Coach Contreras to come talk to us about what he saw from the stands.
Speaking of someone, let's give him an intro. Speaking of someone who could tell you about ties in football, Coach George Contreras, obviously.
What an introduction!
One of the great coaches in Ventura County history. Westlake High. Rio Mesa, you were on other staffs, right? Were you on the Newbury staff at one point?
Newbury, Buena, yeah.
Buena, long time European international football diplomat, we'll say.
Okay.
Missionary, diplomat, missionary, and all kinds of other nouns we can pile on there. But welcome, Coach. He's going to help us break down the playoffs in a little bit, but he was actually he was in the stands at Larrabee. So
yeah,
go ahead,
anybody who's listening, if you've never been to a Santa Paula Fillmore game, you need to go. To me, it's one of the big highlights every year. I've only been to 3 of them, one at Santa Paula and one at Fillmore, which are just amazing. It's jam-packed, lots of emotion, high energy. And this year they moved it to Larrabee because the problem with those 2 schools, they're very small in terms of their stands. They only have stands on one side of the field, and a lot of people can't get a ticket into the game. This year, there was a huge crowd there. I'm going to say probably in the area of 4,500, maybe 5,000 people.
Seemed like
it. Which was great in terms of allowing people to see that game. But I thought on the Santa Paula side, the home side, we were kind of spread out. The visiting side for Fillmore, they were jam-packed on that side. But I think they lost a little bit of that feeling. But I think, again, getting a lot more people to be able to come in the doors and actually see the game live was a huge plus for the series. So I hope they do something like that again, just to allow people to come. But maybe a little bit smaller stadium, maybe like a Buena, which is probably smaller than Ventura High, and maybe get that jam-packed feeling again.
They were talking, I think before they settled on Larrabee, I think they were looking at VC. So, and if Fillmore, I don't know what Fillmore's, we haven't had a kind of a definitive response from Fillmore on whether or not this is something that they would also do. I would assume Fillmore would maybe host the game at Moorpark College, which is huge, and also a great venue for a sporting event. So not quite sure. Or you could do Moorpark High maybe.
For what it's worth, Coach Charlie Weiss after the game said, when I asked him about kind of what he thought of playing in a big stadium, he said, "This is the kind of game that the more people who can watch it, the better. It's good for football in Ventura County. It's good for the fans. It's good for us. So it was, he said it was a cool experience playing in front of so many more people.
So I know they sold 3,500 pre-sale. Plus, for the first time ever, you actually could walk up and go. So, it did look from the photos like you're talking 4,000 plus. So that's double the gate for Santa Paula. So that's absolutely huge. Obviously, you have to spend a little bit money on buses and get everybody out there. But I assume, they made more money on the game. So maybe Fillmore wants to do that at Moorpark College or somewhere else next year. We'll see.
For sure. And then just a couple more, games to go over, little notes. Jack Cunningham from Ventura ties the county record with 5 receiving touchdowns in a 56-7 win over Oxnard. It feels like we've had a note in the notebook, or the roundup rather, about Jack for the last few weeks. He's just kind of, tearing things up over there. So yeah, another player to watch going into the playoffs. We'll talk about Ventura in just a little bit. And then Channel Islands wins its play-in game to get into the playoffs, taking down Carp 34-21. CI just looking better and better, especially on offense, as things have kind of gotten rolling in the season.
I mean, as somebody who's kind of personally tracked kind of the fall and then, rebirth of that program, it's still at the very beginning stages of coming back. I mean, it's one of the, back in the day, I'm sure Coach coached against some great CI teams back in the day. He could tell you about some great CI players. So it's big for South Oxnard that program is starting to come back a little bit, and an awesome moment for them. I mean, if you go 12 years without playoff football, 13 years without playoff football, that's absolutely, it hurts, because you're not playing as much football as everybody else. You're not having the payoff of an awesome season. And the last month they've started to score some points. They've started to play some really good, they're starting to find it a little bit with not just the tight end, but the running, that just all their skill position pieces that really were struggling early in the season, starting to score some points, and they're in. And then that's a start, I think, that no matter what happens in this game on Friday, they can go into the offseason and say, hey, we've push the boulder forward a little bit. Let's gain some momentum and try to go back up the ladder here in the Ventura County northern area kind of leagues and get them going. Maybe get them up into that 4th tier, 3rd tier coming up.
Awesome. All right, enough of that stuff that's in the past. Enough of the Thursday. Enough of the Friday.
Nice.
We're going to talk about the future. We're going to talk about this first round of the playoffs. We got playoff seedings dropped on Sunday morning. Lots of exciting kind of news in there. I wouldn't say that many surprises, would you, Joe, in terms of kind of who's in? Maybe Santa Paula's a little bit of a surprise. They get an at-large bid. Calabasas gets an at-large bid.
So I'll just pull the curtain back. I feel really confident about my grasp on the process and who's going to be in for the first half of the pairings. I knew, the numbers were switching. So that, throughout Saturday, you were refreshing the ratings page and everything was changing. I woke up Saturday morning, Simi Valley was in the playoffs. By the time I was covering flag football on Saturday night, I knew Simi was out. And it's just the way the data was coming in, and however, the moment they got behind Loyola, by the way, if they stayed ahead of Loyola in that ratings, it was just a fraction of a point, they'd be hosting Newbury Park this weekend. What a game that would be. So arguably the 2 best teams in the county last year.
So before we get into it and bring in Derek Eads and talk more with the Deuce and Coach Contreras, you want me to just read through all of our local teams in the playoffs, D3 to D14, or do you want to just talk through one by one?
Yeah, let's introduce. We'll go division by division. We'll introduce. There's 50. So it's 15 of the 25 teams in the county who play Lehman football are in the playoffs. So it's most of the teams made it, and I think obviously Simi was the big surprise. They were the best county team last year. They're the Marmani League champs. They obviously were super beat up and played by the numbers, the toughest schedule in Ventura County. I'll have something probably in online tomorrow and Thursday's paper about kind of how, what happened to Simi this year. I talked to Coach Benkert the other day for a story. And, I think that's the main team out. The highest ranked teams who did not make it besides that are Camarillo, Rio Mesa, Buena, who was in the race to the very end. If Oak Park had lost, they'd have snuck in the playoffs last weekend. And, Royal, Hueneme, Oxnard, Del Sol, Santa Clara. Those are the teams that didn't make the playoffs. Everybody else is in, and let's just go division by division. Let's bring in Derry, the Deuce, Ventura County. So we got a couple Hall of Famers here, right? Let's unmute Derry here.
The Deuce.
What's happening?
You got it, Joe?
Right. Can you do it?
Let me look.
See, mute participant is like grayed out.
Oh, yeah. Derry, can you turn your mic on your end, or?
He can. He's on a phone. There
no, yeah, he totally can. See, Derry's got it.
How did he do that?
I press the *6.
He said, "Press the button, man. Come on, Joe."
Oh my God. Nice, Derry.
Don't mess with Derry's technical savvy. Derry, how's it going, man?
All right, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
Let's give him an introduction. Derry Eads, the longtime Ventura County Star prep editor, sports editor, tremendous bowler, awesome commentator. Derry, man of many things, but Texan. But anyway, welcome back, Derry. Love to talk to you about football.
Thank you.
Always.
George and I used to be on when the Star was doing live streaming.
That's right. Both of you guys would do the game of the week. So I remember Derry and I once did a Channel Islands Camarillo game. When we had the game of the week, I would not do the play-by-play very often, but the one game I think I did play-by-play was me and Derry. I think Valaraga played in it. I think Coach Valaraga played in that game, Channel Islands Camarillo at Camarillo, and Derry was color and I was the play-by-play. So I can put that on my resume. And I was covering the game, also. Dom.
Wow.
Taking the stats. I wrote a story. It's called a Renaissance Man.
Indeed. Now we got to get you out there with the camera, huh, Joe?
Never. No, just kidding. Sure. I am with my phone, I guess. I don't have your eye, though.
So the let's just go upper division to lower division. First of our 10 home games is in Division 3, Oak Hills at Pacifica. Joe, so we were just talking about Pacifica, what they managed to do, showing some toughness in a kind of a scary situation down to Bishop Diego in the Marmani League Championship game. But what do you make of this matchup? Have you heard anything about Oak Hills from Coach Moon? Like, what's the outlook there for our highest division playoff team?
Well, I mean, it's the sign that you're playing big boy football. Is the sign that you're playing Oak Hills in the playoffs. I mean, Oak Hills has defeated I think they split with St. Bonaventure in the playoffs. They've been playing St. Bonaventure every year the last 4 or 5 years. They beat St. Bonaventure in a slugfest. I think it was 16-14 earlier this year. They were eliminated last year by Oaks Christian in the playoffs in the Division II playoffs. So, I mean, Oaks Christian is one of the biggest, Oak Hills is one of the biggest, baddest football teams in programs in Southern California. They're just, every time you cover them, they're massive up front. And I think it's the sign that Pacific kind of has arrived as a powerhouse that, one, they're going to play them in the playoffs. So they're matched up, all the ratings and everything. It looks, it's a team, it's an even game. I think it might be an 8-9 game. It's an even game. And also Pacifica feels like physically they can, maybe hang in there a little bit. They're not as totally physically outmatched as they have been in recent years. I don't know, Derry, any thoughts about, you've covered a lot of Pacifica home playoff games. This will be another Pacifica home playoff game against, a great program in recent years. Anything about what this one means for the Tritons?
Well, it is huge, and in years past in the playoffs, um, Pacifica has not had the offensive line, and as a result of that, quarterbacks were really under tremendous pressure, and there'd be sacks and passes would have to be rushed. Um, but it doesn't look as much like that. Of course, I've only seen these through streaming on TV, so I don't know what the speed is. But um, Pacific's offensive line seems to be doing pretty good. Taylor Lee has had time to throw the ball, and his passing completion percentage of the first 4 or 5 games was, over 80%. Now, it's not like that now, going into the Momani League. It was much lower, and he's had some sub 500 percentages in the Momani League, but the guy got him through to the undefeated league title. That's saying a lot for him and of the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, on the subject of Pacifica's offensive line, they got Tilly back. He's missed a lot of the regular season, but they got Tilly back. He made that great play on defense last weekend. Jaden Wingo, who was hurt last year in the playoffs, is back and has played, I think, the second half of the year. Loretto from the transfer from St. Bonaventure is now in and a big part of that line. So physically, they can hang Chris Pike, the center. So this is probably their best offensive front, and we'll see. It's big, like we said, it's big boy football. They're probably happy they're not in Division II. They'll take a Division III situation, but you're talking about a lot of the teams. I mean, Oak Hills lost in Division II to Oaks Christian last year, so
it was cool seeing. Just a little side note, talking about Taylor Lee again. It was cool seeing I talked to Taylor very briefly on the sideline during that game, while Pacifica looked very out of sorts and was not looking like they were maybe going to win that game. I think he had already thrown one of his 2 picks in that game at this point, and I'm just standing on the sideline taking notes, and I hear, "Oh, hey, what's up, Dom?" Completely cool as a cucumber, has a smile on his face, just like nothing bad is going on, and he goes on and ends up playing great in the second half and everything. So kind of cool to see him. Just the way he dealt with that kind of surprised me a little bit and impressed me. So Taylor Lee, still a very good football player. Not a hot take.
It's going to be interesting to see what Moon does with Isaiah Phillips, because Isaiah, last year in the playoffs, he really made a big difference in that offense. And do they make some sacrifices on defense to play him more on offense? I don't know.
I mean, I think they have the depth. They have the depth to do it in both in that linebacking core and in the running back core. I think what they do with Phelps is he plays where he's needed. Early in the year, most of this year, he's just playing defense, and it's kind of break open glass when needed, and that's how you knew they were in trouble at Bishop, when all of a sudden he's the primary offensive weapon.
Yeah, I should say Angel Sepulveda rushed for I think 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. He could maybe still beat. He is that kind of shorter, faster kind of back, a la Royster, though still a different player. So they still can have that kind of thunder and lightning with those 2 backs, but it definitely is a different sort of deal with Royster out. So if you're asking me, I would say I expect we see a lot of Phelps in the backfield.
All right, let's move on to what is for us the biggest game of the first round of the playoffs, which it's easy. The math is simple. There's 2 teams in it, so that 2 of our local teams in the same game. St. Bonaventure at Oaks Christian. They played just 3 weeks ago. St. Bonaventure winning 19-0 in a game at Ventura College. This game, to the dismay of a lot of St. Bonaventure fans in my email box, is at Thorson Stadium, even though St. Bonaventure won their first game and won the coin flip to be an automatic berth. It just shows you the system. But I'll tell you right now, Oaks Christian, we saw it a couple of years ago with the Pacifica Rio Mesa situation. I think about 3-4 years ago, where Rio Mesa had beaten Pacifica in the regular season, and they matched up again in the first round of the playoffs, and Pacifica won that game. And so, I think when you have a rematch, a league rematch, it kind of favors the team that did not win the first game, because St. Bonaventure has already beaten Oaks Christian, so it's harder to get those kids to play against an opponent they've already beaten. Whereas Oaks Christian, is feeling bad. It was only the second opponent in Oaks Christian history that had ever shut out St. Bonaventure. They get another crack at them 3 weeks later, and now, obviously, Deshaun Rideau is going to be healthy, or not healthy. He's going to be playing. So I assume he's going to be healthy. But anyway, anybody want to chime in on what was, what is one of the Titanic matchups in recent Ventura County history? You get these two teams on the same field, and memories are going to be made.
Well, I think the Oaks Christian passing game has kind of gotten a little bit better. Their starting quarterback left after the second game of the season.
Yeah, it was like 3-4 weeks.
So you bring in a young kid, a freshman, to take his place. I'm sure it's taken him time to develop to the speed of the game and to fit into a tough schedule, non-league schedule as well as the minor league schedule. So I got to think he's a little bit better than they were, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, the core of the Oaks Christian offense are all young. I mean, you're talking about freshman Nico Bladow. They've got multiple receivers who are freshmen and sophomores, obviously all really talented, a lot of potential. And it's just, how much better. We're going to find out how much better Deshaun Rideau makes the Oaks Christian offense. Is he enough, to get Oaks over the top in a game they lost by 19 points 3 weeks ago? And the big plays in that game on defense from the St. Bonaventure defense, more pressure on them this time with the running back who we've seen in the last couple of weeks, obviously have huge games against Camarillo and Simi Valley.
Yeah. Can St. Bonaventure find ways to score outside of, this game that they shut him out, they had a pick six, 2 field goals, and a Jace Franco touchdown run. So one offensive touchdown in that game, with Rideau maybe be able to, get that offense going and score for Oaks Christian. Can St. Bonaventure, who has not scored a ton of points in most of its games, has been in these kind of defensive slugfests? That'll be something to watch if they can get something going.
George, did you see either of these teams?
I saw St. Bonaventure play, and athletically talented. But again, as you said, they just kind of struggle when they really shouldn't be struggling to some degree. I think in this game, Oaks Christian, I think, has got a little bit of an edge with the loss, and it's hard to replicate a pick six and winning with just one offensive touchdown. So I think Oaks Christian might be a slight favorite in this one.
I think we need to come up with the over-under for offensive touchdowns in this game. And is it more? I mean, that's the. I mean, there was one in the first game, right? So
I'd set it at 3, maybe. Honestly,
with Rideau with Rideau in there. So I mean, huge day for Jackson Carper. There's going to be more pressure on the St. Bonaventure offense to score with a couple more games under the freshman quarterback's belt with Rideau in there. So yeah, maybe first to 20. Maybe we'll do like Lawler's Law, but it's first to 20 points.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the other game in Division 4, which is kind of one of the big stories of the season. Westlake, we saw how they did in the regular season. Is the magic going to continue against a Villa Park team that, let's be honest, we don't know much about, but it's really, Westlake getting 1 year after going 0-10, they're hosting a playoff game at home. And let's go to the former Westlake head coach, George Contreras.
Well, again, one of the things I see here is you've got a team that's reached this 10-0 goal, and there tends to be a kind of a drop off when you reach a goal, and a lot of people patting them on the back because of the 0-10 to 10-0 type thing. So I think a little bit is going to be how ready are these kids mentally, to move on and play another week. I think they've got a good draw in Villa Park, and having a home game when the other team has to come from Orange County on a Friday afternoon in rush hour traffic is definitely a plus. So I think right now I'm going to stick with Westlake. They're undefeated for a reason. I saw them play once this year against Segura. They look very solid. So I think they'll do it. But again, I think one of the edges is where the kids are mentally coming off a 10-0 season and not taking themselves too seriously at this point.
There, you had to you covered Coach Clausen a ton, or the Clausen family a lot. What did you think of that achievement this year? And I don't know anything about what Coach Clausen, what makes him a successful coach.
Well, just listening to him and reading his quotes in the paper, it seems that he, from the get-go, his thing was getting the kids with the right attitude week after week. And he's been through this before. I think, if I recall, that there was an 0-10 Calabasas team, and the next year they were 6-4, and I think the year after that they were like a CF champion or something.
That's you nailed it.
He knows something, and he knows how to deal with the kids' minds and how to keep them grounded. And
what it takes.
Agree with
and what it takes to win
I
football
agree
games.
with George about trying to keep that down again with one more game. I think we had a chart that there's been 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's like we've had like about 7 or 8 10-0 teams lose in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, are they
the last time Thousand Oaks, they went 10-0 and lost the first round to Chaparral in 2022, and Pacifica 10-1. They lost to Cajon.
Yeah, you covered that game, and then obviously the Simi game down in Orange County. So, yeah, that was a trend, and that was kind of the trend that Newbury Park broke last year by kind of surprising me and winning Division II. That achievement was phenomenal, and then that's a good question. Is it I'll say this: if Westlake loses the first round of playoffs and they add to another 10, they're a new 10-1 team, another 10-1 team. It doesn't take away from what they've accomplished when you consider what they've done, and that they're one of these programs that's on the up. So, all right, so D5 then.
D5 it is.
D5, Rio Hondo Prep at Thousand Oaks. Thousand Oaks coming off back-to-back section semifinal trips. The same class, trying to make it one round more, trying to get to the Division V final and win it. That's what Jackson Taylor and the boys are trying to do over this next month. Rio Hondo Prep was one of the stories, although not one of our stories, but one of the stories of last year, I believe. A small school that had a lot of success in the playoffs. So, kind of a very interesting first game at TO High. Who wants to talk about the Lancers here?
Well, this Rio Hondo Prep team, I don't know if you mentioned that, Joe, after that great season last year, they are 10-0 coming into this game. So, kind of a big deal last season for them, big deal this season for them. And TO has to go up against a team that hasn't tasted a loss this year.
And George, anything about TO? What you see from?
I first started my coaching career at TO, so I have a soft spot in my heart for the Lancers. I think the tough thing here is again one of the mentality, not so much for TO but for Rio Hondo Prep. you're a defending CIF champion, you're 10-0, and you're on the road for the first game. And I think that could bring those guys in with a big chip on their shoulder to really show who they are. So, while I like the Lancers, I think it's going to be a really, really good and interesting football game. So, yeah, I'd pay good money to watch that game, personally.
For the record, Rio Hondo Prep lost the 3A state championship bowl last year against Bandon,
3A,
42-41
wow.
in overtime. So they haven't lost in regulation since last September.
Wow.
Good program.
It's a tough matchup.
George, wasn't Rio Hondo once an 8-man football team?
Yeah, they were an 8-man powerhouse for decades. So again, I think one of those things with that school, they've had a very, very rich football tradition, no matter how many guys were on the field. And like I said, I think this is one of the big factors. I think it's just like that chip on my shoulder that we're not being respected kind of thing is going to be played up big by the Rio Hondo coaches. So I think it's a real fascinating game to see those two match up.
And to turn back to like, TO specifically, Joe, you've seen them play this season. They finished the regular season 8-2. Their only losses are Westlake and Simi. How have you felt kind of seeing them? You caught them in that game against Newbury, which I think was a little bit of an ugly one, but they get 3 wins to end the season with wins over Rio, Newbury, and Santa Barbara, which is kind of a pretty solid one. Like, how do you feel about their just position going into the playoffs? How have they looked these last couple of games?
I mean, they are playoff tested. They have a Division I quarterback who has a lot of playoff experience. Their line is better than it was last year. You have Hayden Vircher, who I know Rio Hondo is a really well-coached, well-drilled team that plays together, but I'd be shocked if they have a player that can cover Hayden Vircher, because no one does. So I think now I'm like, do we have to go, Dom? Because this becomes a huge. I mean, I think it's a huge story. It's a great, it's a crazy first round matchup that these two teams have matched up in the first round. Where you think, TO's had success in higher divisions. Now they're down in 5, and they're playing this team with all this postseason success. So, it's a great. Certainly TO's got to be disappointed that they didn't win the league. But if they can get past this first game, they got to like their chances of putting it's been about finishing the job and winning a CIF championship over there the last couple of years. So can they do it this year? And if they win this first game against a defending CIF champion, defending state bowl participant, they got to feel good about it.
For sure. And then, Newbury Park, in what's been what a crazy season for that program, especially, with what they did last year with the injury to Brady Smigel, with all that kind of stuff. They get to play Loyola, the team that I covered that game. Simi barely comes back and beats them in the playoffs last year. I can't remember if it was the semifinals, the quarterfinals. It was
the semi. It was the semi.
Yeah, they win, at Loyola. I've seen that team. It was a very, very, very good, well-coached team last year. And so Newbury Park gets a challenge on the road, one of our 5 road games this week.
I could just see Coach Michael looking at the pairings when they come out and being like, seriously, again, this, in this year, we lose our quarterback, my son, we have all these obstacles. We have a rough non-league. Everything looks like it's going to come together. And then, it just seems like it's been a series of obstacles. And then they're down, they drop 3 divisions into D5, and they're still playing a Mission League team in the first round of the playoffs on the road. So, whoever, I'm sure whoever, I'm trying to think of like a curse or something, like whatever Newbury Park did to get cursed by the football gods. I mean, they're going to have an exorcism here this week before they head down to LA. But I don't know, you guys want to chime in on what Newbury's been through this year and if they've got a shot of beating a Mission team on the road in Division 5?
Well, losing a quarterback is always a problem for any team. one of Brady Schmeigel's caliber, that's just devastating. But they've come through it. You know, he went down, and the new kid came in, and they've won a couple, 3 games since that happened, which is a lot to the total resiliency of that squad. And like I said, I like their chances. I mean, going down to Loyola, you know, fighting that traffic like we've talked about before, is never a fun thing. But you know, Joe Schmeigel and his staff are battle tested. They know how to prepare teams for the playoffs. So I think that's a big plus for that group going down there. It's just going to be again, how much can they rely on their offense to get things going like they traditionally do? Because I know they've had some serious defensive issues over the course of the season. So yeah, that offense is going to have to really click for them to have a chance here in the playoffs to go far.
Don't forget they took Westlake to two double overtimes before losing. So it's
they
had a chance to win the game on some field goals in regulation. I think
they missed the field goal. They gave up 2 game-tying touchdowns in the last 3 minutes of the game, and then no, that's not true. They gave up a game-tying touchdown with 3 minutes to go, and then missed the kick that would have won the game. But yeah, so that they're right there with the that's a Division IV top half of the bracket sort of team in Westlake. So, so they again perfectly capable of winning this game on the road. Especially now, it has to be mentioned, Darian Johnson is their solution at quarterback, who has been absolutely spectacular at every position they've put him in since he's been eligible. Cornerback, receiver, running back, now quarterback. I think we've been really impressed with what Tony Dargan has done at St. Bonaventure as a freshman, and he's kind of, him and Darian Johnson are going to be, 2 of the best skill position players in this county going forward the next 3 years.
And then moving on to Division 6, we got 3 teams, 3 home games. These are the 3 teams that I think I mentioned last pod that I was like, if these teams get to play each other this season, I'm going to be stoked to see. Moorpark played Ventura. I got to cover that game, but with Moorpark hosting Riverside King, Ventura hosting Salesian, and Agora hosting Fontana, you got 3 teams that could maybe see each other. Moorpark and Ventura could see each other in the second round if they both win today. Or not today, this week, pardon me.
This week.
Surprise Tuesday football game. But yeah, so what do you think, guys? What's maybe one way of looking at this, of talking about these 3 teams, is like, who among these 3 do you feel has the best chance to make a deep run in that D6 bracket? Does anybody jump out to you?
I think Ventura of those 3, to me. I mean, they've got a solid defensive group. The offense has been playing better and better and better. They got a good passing attack, which I think is important in the playoffs. So I think they're a very solid group going into the playoffs. And it seems to me like they've gotten stronger. They started off the season a little bit slow, and they've been getting better and better and better. And that's one of the things that's really important in playoff times is who's hot at this moment, more than just your raw record. So I look for Ventura to make a really good, solid run in this thing. But I wouldn't count out the other 2 clubs. Ventura, I should say Agura and Moorpark, again, good teams, have good records. So yeah, I think that's really a very, very solid division for our county. I mean, I think all 3 of those teams are going to make a win and get into at least the second, maybe even the third round or farther.
Yeah.
Jerry, you want to chime in on any of those 3? Yeah, go ahead.
Seemed like Moorpark, they were indecisive about the 2 quarterback system. And they finally went with Logan Moon. I think he's made a big difference. Not only can he throw, but he's one of the team's top running back, if not the top running back. So teams have got to respect what he can do, and they may have to change their defenses a little bit to account for his ability to do both.
You guys mentioned
Moorpark also has a pretty good receiver in Davis Benson.
He's a pretty good track athlete too. Derry loves the track athletes. So does Dom. That's right. Speaking of Moore Park. I mean, the thing we talked about Ventura, how they're well equipped. I think all three of these teams are well equipped to make a run because Moore Park has been one of the most solid three-phase teams in the county. That's a team that's made huge plays defensively and in special teams, as well as being a pretty good ball control offense all year. I think they look like a team that should win playoff games. They're the 2 seed, I think, in this bracket. And then Agura's got the quarterback. You got Gavin Gray with all those receivers. I mean, you can throw yourself into a big lead. You can throw yourself out of a hole. I mean, you keep Gavin Gray upright, that team can win playoff football games. I'm really excited to see what he looks like in the playoffs. So, I mean, put it this way, right? When you look at these brackets, we would love to cover a third Moore Park Ventura game from the last 2 years next week. That would be the game, one of the games of the year. And then the winner of that game getting Agura in a semifinal would be the stuff of, that we would dream about. So anyway, this is the only shot, I think. Derry sent me a list earlier today of all the county matchups in playoff history. And the only two county teams that could play each other in the playoffs this year are Moore Park and Ventura. And that would be next week. It's the only shot we got.
Wow. Outside of
a TO Newbury final. Right?
Bonnie and Oaks in the first round.
Oaks isn't a county.
Oh, so, yeah. Gotcha. That makes sense.
Oaks Christian's not a county team. Agura's not a county team.
Right. Yeah, so credit to Finn Ward is one of those guys on that offensive line. They haven't been able to – nobody's been able to put, Gavin Gray on his back, so far this season, at least not that I have seen. You covered that Westlake game. You've kind of covered them playing some tough opponents, but yeah, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Coach was there. Yeah, no, Coach Contreras was at that game, right?
Yeah, I was at that game, and again, I thought it was competitive at that point in time, which was I think game 2 or 3. Westlake was just a little bit better, and their kids performed a little bit better. But in watching Agura and kind of following a little bit what they've done this year, again, there's a team that's just growing and getting better and getting more confident. So I think they're in a really good position going into the playoffs. Now, getting back a little bit to Moore Park very quickly, one of the things that it's important is how are you doing, how are you trending as a team? And I see the team that they're playing, King, they've lost their last 2 games of the season. So that's nice. Another thing to kind of say, okay, well, let's put these guys out of their misery quickly and move on. So those are the kind of mental things that really happen during the playoffs that are important. But I like Agura. I really like what they're doing over there.
They've got a 7-game win streak coming into the playoffs.
I think they learned some lessons from that Westlake loss.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to D7. El Segundo at Calabasas. Calabasas was one of our 2 at-large teams. I think they're well positioned. It's a team that has a lot of kind of glittering offensive talent. King Miller, if you haven't seen him, is an absolute must-watch running back. Defensively, I thought early in the season they were one of the more passive defenses that I had seen, and I think once they got into league, I think they've been a much better defensive team. So I think they're kind of, even though they did not have a good end of the season to the Westlake team, they really didn't have an answer for Westlake. They're down in D7. El Segundo has played a lot of playoff football against Ventura County. I remember they had a CIF final or a semifinal against Nordhoff under Tony Henney a long time ago. They play, we're kind of relatively close, and our teams play. There's some history there between us and El Segundo. So, we'll see. Okay. Dom's making changes to our rundown. He just will correct that error when we get there, buddy. I didn't have St. Paul on our schedule.
I'm counting it. I think you had the right number. You just forgot to put them in. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
yeah, it's
14, 15. Yeah, we're all good.
So, I like the way Calabasas is trending. They have the weapons to do it. They're in a spot where, they can if they can play well, they can put some games together. But I think it's going to depend on how well that defense plays. They have to play like they've played in league. And they're a good spot. So, they gave TO a really good run. They played, this is a team that played Los Alamitos. They're not going to play anybody in Division 7 like Los Alamitos. So they're gonna go into they're gonna go into these games confident. So
They didn't
I
just
think,
play. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Coach.
well, just say one other thing for the Calabasas game is El Segundo. El Segundo played West Torrance last week. The winner was going to be the league champion, and they lost 31-28. Once again, how does El Segundo, rebound mentally from losing a league championship a week ago? So that's kind of a big thing, I think, to look at and consider.
Yeah, I was just
And
going
then
to say.
you've got a
Oh, yeah,
Calabasas
go ahead.
team that had less than 200 yards in total offense last week.
that game was over, like, seriously, like at the end of the first quarter. It was running clock the entire second half. Like you literally can tell in my story. There's barely any football in my story. It was about the story. So it was all pre-reported story about what Westlake had done. And there's very little Calabasas in it because, I mean, that's a good point. It's like, can they switch the polarity from a rough game last week and go into the playoffs confident? So,
And then in D9, we have Fillmore hosting Cerritos. Coach Contreras, off air, you mentioned this was a team that you had kind of singled out as maybe one of those teams that you would pick to make one of the deepest runs.
Right.
Tell me why that is.
Well, I liked what I saw last week in their running game. They're a well-coached team overall. They're very salty on defense. They had a solid special teams play, and they run the football. I think they're a run first, pass second type group. And in today's high school football, college football, people on defense don't like to see people who run. So I think if they can establish that run and get it going, I think they've got a great chance. I think the Cerritos matchup is going to be a tough one. Cerritos has got a pretty good team that's on a 6-game winning streak right now. I think if they can get by that game, I think they've got a real good shot of getting to the semis, maybe even the finals. But I think this first game is a huge one for them. So I'm just kind of pulling for Fillmore to pull it off. And it's at home. Again, Cerritos has got to come from down in the Whittier area, I think that is more or less, to get up here in Long Beach area. I guess that is, and that's going to be a tough drive for them to getting up to Fillmore. So that's always a factor. But I think that's going to be another really exciting matchup. I think 9-1 versus an 8-2 Cerritos team.
Derry can tell you exactly where Cerritos is because we've spent plenty of time covering track at Cerritos College.
Absolutely, been there too.
Cerritos is the team that actually knocked Fillmore out of the playoffs a couple of years ago in Division 12. So these two teams are not unfamiliar with each other. So, it's a tough shot for, tough first round matchup for Coach Weiss. But, certainly we've seen a Fillmore team that I think it's their second best or tied for their best regular season in the history of Fillmore football, which, as we all know, goes back a long way. So, certainly these kids deserve a long run. Hopefully they go out and earn it.
I remember them being 10-3 and losing in the semifinals on the road, and they were a really good team that year. They had a really good all-around passing game and running game. They were really strong. I kind of compare this team with that as far as their overall ability. This team could go far.
Yeah, I think that was Sean Miller's team that went to the semi. I'm trying to pull it up real quick.
That was when I was still there as a reporter. It was like 2009 or something like that.
Yeah,
They finished like 10-3, if I recall.
Yep, that was Matt Dollar was the coach of that team in 2008, 10-3, and I think that's tied for one of the most wins in school history. They lost 29 Palms beat them in December of 2008. So they beat Grace that year in the playoff opener. All right.
Into the double digits.
Now, Dom?
We got Division 10, Oak Park at Village Christian in Sun Valley. So yeah, Coach Webb's 4-6 Eagles get that third playoff spot. Was a storyline all year that we talked about, Joe, who was going to get that third playoff spot out of the Channel League. They get that. They're in good position here in a lower division. I think this is what the what Oak Park has kind of been looking forward to is seeing what kind of damage they can do in the playoffs. Coach Webb and those guys over there like definitely believe that they can, make a postseason run with Grayson Ozat, their talented quarterback, transferred in this year, or I guess maybe it was last year. Yeah. And yeah, I mean they've looked good. I don't have a whole lot to say about that, but
well, I think we've had this ongoing conversation about which team, which of these teams can do damage in the playoffs. We've talked about this for a month, and I think Oak Park was a team that, if they got in, they were down in the double digits. Maybe this is a team that can make a run. I mean, I think it hurt on over the weekend when you look at if they're they're playing the number one seed in D10. That means they were percentage points away from being the 1 seed in 11. This team being in 11, so you would have loved their chances to make a playoff run in Division 11. But I think that what I've heard from the coach, the coaches over there is that they still feel good about where they are in these matchups, and I mean this is lower. I mean, it's a team that played Camarillo in the playoffs last year, and won. So they're familiar with what it takes to win in the playoffs, and they don't have a ton of depth. If they can stay healthy, especially up front, that could be a team that could play into December.
Fueled on gator meat.
That's right. Will gator meat get you a playoff win? Tune in.
Find out next time.
Friday night.
Oh man. And then did you guys have any thoughts on Oak Park? Anything you've seen this year?
Well, not so much on Oak Park, but when I researched Village Christian, I saw they played last week against Aquinas. That game was for the league championship, and they lost at 42-12. So again, how does that team bounce back mentally when you said they're the number one seed in the division, Joe?
They are, but if that's a team that's been on the football field with Aquinas in the last 7 days, that's a team that is going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, I think again you're off a tough loss for the league championship. It cost you that. You're playing a team that, in theory, hey, they're 4-6, and we're the number one seed. So I think there's a lot of mental advantages there for Oak Park to exploit.
Should add also that should Oak Park win and should Heritage Christian win, it would set up a kind of not a reunion, but a former local coach in Ben McEnroe, who's now coaching over at Heritage Christian, would play Casey Webb's Eagles in the second round. So, interesting tidbit there.
Trying to think if TO has played Oak Park in recent years. I think they have. Moving on so we skipped D11. The two divisions that don't have local teams are 8 and 1, 2, 8 and 11. 12 is Rialto at Grace. That's a couple divisions higher than they were last year, I believe. And then Ocean View at Santa Paula. So you've got two teams that played each other in a great game at Moore Park College earlier this year. Grace and Santa Paula down in 12. Grace, obviously, the Citrus Coach League champion. Santa Paula getting an at-large. Santa Paula has had some seedings day luck getting at-large bids down a couple divisions a couple times now in the last couple of years. So good for the Cardinals. They obviously belong in the I think we said last week that they belong in the playoffs because of what they've been when they've been whole. And I think the only reason they're 5-5 is because they've had some injuries up front at the quarterback position. But who's seen Grace and Santa Paula? Who wants to talk about those two teams?
I'll make one comment, not so much about Grace, but about their opponent. Rialto's 9-1, but last week they played a 1-9 Notre Dame Riverside team and won 57-48. So my concern there is that they may have had a mental letdown last week and got away with a win, and maybe served as a big wake-up call going into the playoffs. So I think this Rialto team, besides the obvious 9-1 record, has become very dangerous because of that potential pitfall that they survived last week.
Yeah, you want to see Grace defend. That's kind of the big deal. They've put up, tons of points, it feels like, in almost every single game they've played. Just looking at, lots of winning scores starting with the number 5 in their schedule this year. But but they also they gave up 20 points 2 weeks ago to CI. They gave up 54 to Fillmore. So that what that defense can do might kind of be a determining factor of their success or failure in the playoffs, I feel like.
Well, the defense has 30 takeaways for the season.
Yeah, Jake Williams, all those interceptions. Yeah.
Yeah, does he still lead? Derry, does Jake Williams still lead, or who leads in interceptions? I think you posted. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think he's been the county leader in interceptions for much of the year.
Yeah, 6 interceptions.
That's
yeah.
all.
Grace has 30 takeaways this year. Is that correct?
30.
That's an amazing number. That's just an amazing number.
It's like a basketball team.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of
Go back and forth.
Lots of possessions in those games because they put up so many points. And then Santa Paula. It would be very cool to see these teams play again, but I guess that's not one of our possibilities. But Santa Paula gets in. They get, hopefully Renee Vega sticks on the field again for another week. But yeah, it will be cool to see what they can do as well, hosting Ocean View. Do we know anything about Ocean View?
Orange County, long drive.
Yeah, let's move to Division 13, and I'll look up Ocean View real quick.
Cool. Nordhoff is on the road at Buena Park this year, capping. They had a great run this year in the Citrus Coast League, finishing just behind Grace, and they're one division down from them this year. I remember talking to some of those Nordhoff guys and to Coach Lowen at the passing tournament at Fillmore before the season began, and already those kids were talking about, I'm asking them what their goals are for league, and they're talking about the playoffs. They're talking about, what kind of damage they can do in a lower division, and here they are in D13. So they got what they wanted. Now time to see what they can do, starting with Buena Park on the road.
Yeah, I got a chance to see Nordhoff earlier this year in a non-league game. I was very impressed. I mean, number one, that great community feeling when you go up to Ojai. It's the center of the social calendar each week during the fall. And I thought their kids played really, really, really hard. So if their goals have been to do things well in the playoffs, that's a great positive mindset going into the playoffs. And again, I think they're going to be a pretty tough out. Their negative right now is you've got to make that drive to Orange County and not go to Knott's Berry Farm beforehand and enjoy the big rides. But I like their chances. I really do. I think they've got a good chance to do some damage.
Nordhoff has had some great programs in the past. And this year's team, in 10 games, set the school scoring record with 476 points, including 76 against Eastside.
Yeah, they've scored. I think Derry told me that they had 60 points twice in their history, and they've done it 3 times this year.
Wow.
And
again, you have a quarterback who can pass and rush. That Michael Denny, he's pretty good.
Yeah, talking about these teams that are in the double-digit divisions, right? Vega, Denny, Williams, they're all kind of solid, quarterbacks that are dual threats that can run and pass and dictate a game. And so I think all those teams are kind of in good positions to make runs because they've got the right players behind center. Looking at Ocean View and Buena Park, these are both kind of like mid-size Orange County public schools that haven't been great programs in recent years. There's actually Ocean View has been in D14 a bunch of years in a row. They're now up to 12. So this is one of their better teams. Recently they play in the Sigma League, which don't tell my teenage son because I think he would want to transfer.
I love the teenage
George, there's
jokes
no way
from
you get that joke. There's
No.
no way George gets that joke. There's
I just like you guys laughing and having a good time.
That's
teenage
why we love having George around.
kids these days will they talk about being Sigma all the time. That's why it's like a thing.
Parenting teenagers with Joe Curley. That's we got a segment
Not
every
fun.
episode.
Not
And then
fun.
in D14, our last team to make it in, the last team to make it into the playoffs, the bottom seed in Division 14, Channel Islands. And it's a great story seeing them, get in, seeing them, you were talking about CI in the very beginning of the season, Joe, as being like, they're big. They've been waiting for things to kind of start to turn around, and it looks like it's happening kind of late in the regular season this year, and they get into the playoffs. What do you think that can happen in that D14 bracket?
Well, I mean, I think they're equipped. They're big. They've got, they look like, they're the second biggest public school in Ventura County. They've got size up front. They've got, like we've seen in recent weeks, they have the ability to throw and run. If they showed the ability to stop the run against Carpinteria. They are, let's report the facts. They are the lowest ranked team in the postseason. And so anything they do is a big deal, considering they haven't won a playoff game, I think, since Coach Valaraga was a player, which was about the time Darian and I were doing Game of the Week as play-by-play and color commentary as a team. So, it's been a long time waiting for the Raiders. I think if they're able to use their physical superiority in a positive way offensively, I think they can make a run. But again, they are playing the number 1 seed on the road. And so they're not expected to win this game. I'm sure Cal Preps or HS Ratings is going to predict them as being a big, significant loss. But, that's not the Channel Islands team that we've seen the last month. The Channel Islands team that we've seen in the last month is a completely different team than the team that we've seen the last the 7 weeks before that, or the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So, I don't know. I would love to be at South El Monte, is I think who they're playing. I would love to cover that game. But too many games locally.
Joe's been talking about making that drive.
You just don't want to make the drive.
No,
Joe's
if anybody wants to make the drive, it's me.
Joe's been texting me like once or twice a day about how he actually really wants to go to this Channel Islands playoff game. Like ever since Sunday, it's been like 2.5 days of this. But that's
why I
just say with that game, CI's got nothing to lose. Like you said, the last team in, I think those kids are on a real high the way they finished their season with 3 wins. South El Monte, you're the number 1 ranked team in that division, but you are coming off of the league championship loss to El Monte last week. So you got not just the league championship, it's your crosstown rival. I think CI could be in a really good spot if they just throw caution to the wind and just get after it. I saw them play earlier this year against Del Sol, and again, they were a fun team to watch. They no matter what their record was, they were playing some good, tough football at that point in time.
Yeah, again, like the Westlake thing, these Channel Islands kids and this coaching staff has turned around, the momentum of that program. They've got them going back in the positive direction, and excited to see what they can do this weekend and going forward. That
is our playoff preview. 15 teams. Division 3 to Division 14. I think before we move on, we should all stake a claim and make a pick on who we think has the best chance of, say, making a final or winning a CIF championship this year. We've heard from Coach Contreras. I think it sounds like Fillmore is your pick. Do you want to amend that?
No, I mean there's a couple others here that look very interesting to me, but I think Fillmore is my number 1 pick. I'd go with maybe Nordhoff as number 2, is having the best shot. Yeah. Again, I like small school football. I really enjoy watching those kinds of community teams play in this day and age.
Derry, what do you think about these groups here? Who do you think's got a decent shot at making a run and making us work the next month?
Well, what I'd like to see is Ventura and Moorpark play in the second round game.
Yeah.
And the winner gets to the semifinals. Either one of those two teams, I think, has a chance to win. You get on a run like that.
Yeah, I think that's
I also agree with. I also agree with George with Fillmore and Nordoff. Those are two well-coached teams with kids playing at their best at this time of year.
I'm going to go in that same division and pick the team that was not mentioned there in Agora. Joe knows how high I've been on Agora this year.
I knew you were going to pick Agora or Fillmore. You probably would pick Fillmore if Coach didn't grab it first.
No, I'm picking Agora, and part of the reason I say this is Moorpark's great, Ventura's great. I've seen all three of these teams play. One shared opponent that Ventura and Agora have is Thousand Oaks. Thousand Oaks beat Ventura pretty decisively in Ventura's opener this year. I want to say it was like 13, 14 points. Agora loses on a field goal? That was what the end of that game was. It was 2019.
Caden Glover blocked a 35-yard field goal to save Thousand Oaks. Or else Agora would have beaten TO.
Agora's two losses are Westlake and TO, a 10-0 team, and a what is that? A Division 4 team? Is that where 5 team? So,
but like a battle-tested, experienced senior laden team, like that was a very impressive loss.
Yeah,
very impressive result.
Yeah, and so I saw Agora handle Fillmore in a way that I had not seen any other team play against Fillmore. They have all these weapons. They have Boussier. They have a defense that's looked so much better with the ends, with Gelt, with Bellingrath. You have Gavin Gray, who we've talked about. I think they're a complete team, and even though they're up in the middle of those divisions, I think they have a chance to go real deep. So I'm putting it out there.
I'm glad you guys all went first. It's like I feel like we're at the lunch, we're out to dinner together, and I don't know what I'm going to order, and then I'm looking at the menu while you guys are all telling the waiter
the fajitas.
At the very end, I'm like, fajitas, gotta go fajitas. So honestly, I mean, I love the idea of CI making a run. I think Nordoff, every time I see Nordoff film, they're bigger than I think. I think they're well equipped to make a run at D13, although, there's going to be some bigger schools there that it's going to be, that's the smallest public high school in Ventura County. So any sort of thing they do in the playoffs is a big deal. I love the idea of Grace putting together and kind of playing that basketball style, high scoring style, where it's all offense plus turnovers, takeaways. I think that's we've been talking about Oak Park forever. I agree with the Fillmore. Whoever comes out of that Ventura County group in D6, if we don't have a D6 finalist, I'm going to be disappointed. One of those teams has got to make it, whether it's Gavin Gray with the Chargers, whether it's Derek Garcia with the Cougars, whether it's a really balanced Ventura team doing it in Christian Dearborn's first year. I think one of those three teams, it's going to break my heart if one of those three teams does not make it and make the D6 final out of that bottom bracket. But I am going to go, and honestly, I haven't picked the St. Bonaventure Oaks Christian game yet. But I think the winner of that game, I'm going to have to pick it right now. The winner of that game, I think, is going to play for the D4 final. We've had the D4. We had an all-local D4 final, Ventura County final last year with Pacifica and St. Bonaventure. I think the winner of St. Bonaventure Oaks Christian will make the D4 final. I go back and forth on who's. I'm just going to have to flip a coin and say, I guess I'm going to pick St. Bonaventure this weekend, or am I going to pick Oaks Christian?
I'm glad you had. You had the cojones to actually make a pick there.
No, I'll say St. Bonaventure. I was literally, when I started this whole thing, I was going to pick Oaks Christian, but St. Bonaventure on the road not only wins that game, but I think they're going to win D4. So,
wow.
But I think whoever wins that game is the D4 champion, because last time Oaks Christian was in a lower division, they went to the final and lost to Valencia. St. Bonaventure is well positioned with that defensive front, with with the weaponry they have. Jackson Carper obviously got them to a section final last year. I think the winner of that game should win Division 4.
You
So
heard
why
it
is
here.
nobody saying anything about Pacifica?
Well, I mean, I think Pacifica.
Is it the schedule that they're playing?
I mean, I think it's hard. That D3 is big boy stuff, and I think it's certainly within their capabilities to make a run. They are our number 1 ranked team. They are our best football team. If you had a tournament of Ventura County teams, they've proven that they would win that tournament. But they're playing Oak Hills this weekend, and that's one of the toughest opponents that program will be faced with. I'm not saying they're going to lose that game, but I'm saying that. And all that is to come in that division is an easier road for them than St. Bonaventure or Oaks Christian in D4.
Right. Even if they win that game, then they play the number 1 seed in the second round.
Yeah.
Which is Bishop Amat. Last time a local team played Amat in the playoffs, I think it was Mike Pittman and Oaks Christian about a decade ago. But I mean, Pacifica could beat that Amat team too, but it's just a much tougher road than what the Seraphs and the Lions are going to have to deal with.
It's a fair point, Derry. I mean, I came away from the most recent game that I watched, my first time seeing Pacifica this season, both kind of a little bit unnerved by what I saw in the first half, and really impressed by their grit in being able to pull out a game that they really needed to win when they were 9-0 on the season. So, yeah, I mean, they're really good. They
showed real guts.
Yeah, seriously, which is exactly what you want to see going into the postseason. So, good point. I already made my pick, though, Derry. You can't do that to me.
We're gonna get some texts from North Oxnard.
I just thought somebody would say something about Pacifica, an unbeaten team and number 1 team in the county.
I mean,
Well,
that's
the number
the system.
1.
Yeah, I think they're the best team in the county beyond question, but they also have the toughest road of any team in the county to get to the finals. Would I love to see them win and see Coach Moon win another one? Absolutely. But it's just a tough road. And the question is, who do we think has the best chance? I think these other schools have a little bit softer road and therefore an easier chance to get there. But if Mike and his staff can pull this off again, I don't think it would surprise anybody on this podcast. They've done a great job for several years there. And there's a group of kids and coaches who are battle tested. They know what it takes to get through a 4-week grind to win a CIF championship. So I don't count those things out. I think they're in the toughest division of any of our schools. And
now that you guys bring this up, the wheels are turning a little bit. I know Dom's trying to get us out of here, but I don't care with this being the longest podcast of the season because it's it's the one with the most content.
Yeah.
I will say this: Pacifica is a Division II quality team. They got a little lucky with, I don't know, the permutations or whatever. However, everything fell. That's a team that Newbury Park was our best team last year, and they were in D2. Previous years, our best team, the CME team, I think that lost that when they were 10-0, the TO team that lost, those teams were in D2, I think. So I think they get a little bit of a break that they're in D3, and then I think now that I think about this, maybe they're better positioned to make a run than you would think. I think it's just knowing what Oaks Hills is. That's also a quality D2 type of team. So I don't know, maybe I don't know. Now I'm just spinning out, but I think you could make an argument that Pacifica should be in D2. They're lucky to be in D3. Maybe they could make a run that way. Maybe, I don't know.
Fajitas, Joe. Take the fajitas.
You see the sizzling platter going to somebody else's table, and you're like, oh, maybe Pacifica. Could be Pacifica.
You can never go wrong. It's so good. You can never go wrong when you don't know what to order. Fajitas is a good choice.
All right, we are coming up on 85 minutes into this podcast, so I think we're going to call it there. One quick note. Ventura High girls volleyball is playing in the Division 4 final Thursday night at Ventura High, which I will be covering. So keep an eye out for the live coverage of that. Flag football playoffs continue. Westlake is in the final. Is that correct?
Westlake plays 5 p.m. Saturday at El Medina High in Orange. They play Corona Del Mar
So one
for the D2 champion. Our first Ventura County flag football CIF championship game.
We got a flag football team in the championships. We got a volleyball team in the championships. Look out for coverage of that, of the upcoming football playoffs, which will be getting started on Friday. Joe and I will both be out there somewhere, TBD.
Vote in the polls. Read Joe Stradamus. Read all of Dom's coverage. And good luck to all your teams.
Awesome. Hey, Coach Contreras, Derry, thank you guys so much for coming on. This was so much better having you guys here. All the wisdom. Appreciate you both.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Chicken mail.
Thanks, Deuce.
Thanks, Derry.
Checking the mail.
Checking the mail. That's right.
I guess not, huh?
The lunch. How's a lunch?
Okay. All right.
Get Parker ready. We'll pick you guys up.
All right, guys. Until next time, longest pod on record. We'll talk to you next week.
It comes down to this for Thousand Oaks in their season. It is a gift to Martin. Martin gets the first down and more. It's a nice little screen to the left-hand side. One play, and see ya later. Caldera dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Oxnard. What a fitting way to end that run. He's at the 40. He's at the 20.